everybody, and welcome to Raising Vibrations with myself, Simon. Today, what I'm going to be doing for you is going through the Uranus series, and I'm going to be continuing with Uranus through the houses, so pretty exciting stuff. Okay, so before I go ahead and explain a little bit about what Uranus in the third represents for any person, I do need to encourage you to watch the introduction video. The reason why that's the case is because it gives you a lot of information about what it actually symbolizes in the birth chart. And it really gives you a grounded perspective of how to understand and intuit the way that it operates within your own consciousness. So it's a really important video to watch. I highly recommend doing that. It is part of a playlist. So it does give you that opportunity to, just click on the top there, okay? Right, so Uranus in the third house, quite an interesting aspect, I must admit. For myself personally, I'm actually experiencing the transit of Uranus move through my third house. And I can tell you right now that it is quite a challenging experience. And my heart does go out to any of you that does have Uranus in the third house. Because when you are looking at the nature of reality and you're looking at how you are interacting with that reality, it's like light years apart. At least that's how I'm experiencing it. So what does Uranus in the third house really symbolize? Basically, for a soul that comes with Uranus in the third house, I would basically first look at the aspects that are being made to Uranus. If there are quite a lot of like squares and so on and so forth, then most likely there's going to be a trauma signature around that placement. And I use that word and that terminology, the trauma signature, very lightly, but it is something that I do encourage you to spend a lot of time understanding about what it actually symbolizes in your chart in that way, because Uranus does actually cause a lot of trauma wherever it is placed in the chart, especially if there's like lots of aspects being made to it. So in this particular instance, with Uranus being in the third house, what is basically happening for you is that the construction of how you understand the nature of your definitions, how you define stuff, how you name stuff, how you intellectually put things together, has essentially been fractured. Okay, Uranus fractured. And the nature of the way that your logical mind works is not operating in the way that it has been before. Okay, so the evolutionary intention here when it comes to Uranus in the third house is that the soul is learning to fracture and break free from all forms of definitions, words, names, etc., that have come before, and to basically integrate new perspectives and ideas, as well as a certain way of communicating. And the whole process is about actually merging, or is a process of transitioning between an old, outdated perception, idea, definition, and moving into a new way of communicating, a new way of defining yourself, a new way of actually structuring the nature of your reality through your left brain. And it's that transition between going from the old to the new that makes it such an incredibly difficult transit in that way, or at least placement, because you're stuck in this space where the information that you have and the environment that you're in does not reflect the thought processes that are operating within yourself. So what happens here is that you sometimes, or most of the time, actually struggle to communicate things that you are inherently receiving. Uranus is correlating to electricity in that sense. It's from the higher mind. So what's happening here is that you're experiencing these high, thought forms that are new and fresh, that have not actually been integrated into the nature of your current reality, leaving you in a situation of I don't know how to speak, I don't know how to connect in that sense. So it's quite an interesting transit in that way. It does give you a feeling of alienation. It does give you a feeling of rejection. You might even mentally reject yourself in that way. And so there are, that this is what I mean when I said trauma signatures, is that you're basically going through this process where everything around you reflects a different way that you communicate. So it can be something as simple as you're born into a family and everybody around you speaks a specific language. And then what happens is that you come in there and it's you have this really, really distinct dislike for speaking that language. and you have to constantly interact with people around you that are saying, you have to speak this language, or this is how, mother tongue, and you're going, but no, I sort of start to develop an interest in another language, for instance, and I prefer that one. And it's that interaction between a different way of communicating in respect to an environment that reflects something that is, not of yourself. So your individuality. So it's kind of an interesting transit. There's a lot of mental trauma that comes through because, like I said, your environment does not reflect the nature of what you are in that way. And it's about you having to integrate your new sense of identity or your new thought forms into your environment that creates evolution. And this is what actually manifests over here, is that you are essentially integrating, like I said, these new thought forms into your life. And as you start integrating them, you start fracturing and taking away and redefining the nature of your own reality. But at the same time, you're also changing the form that is existing outside of yourself and causing people to confront their own mental restrictions, which is what the whole point of Uranus in the third house is, to confront the nature of mental restrictions that have been outdated. Because remember that Uranus and Saturn always they're always working together in that way. So yeah, with Uranus being in the third house, look at the sign that it's in as well. So if you're in Aries, for instance, the way that you interpret this is you look at the polarity point. Obviously, in this particular instance, it's Sagittarius. So your own direct experience, your own intuitive way of being, which is why you would need to really accept your individuality in that sense. You can't reject it. And then secondly, whatever sign it's in. So for instance, if it's in the sign of Scorpio, then you're going to have to integrate personal re-empowerment, Taurus, the other side of it in that sense, really deal with a lot of fears and so on and so forth. Great, guys. Well, I really hope that you enjoyed this episode of Uranus through the third house, and it's given you some interesting sort of perspective on how to approach the situation. If you're wanting to know more about how that's actually working for your soul point of view, please contact me. All my information is in the description below. And, book a reading with myself. I've got all the services on my website over there. Okay? And if you enjoyed it, also hit the like and subscribe button. Fantastic, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.